player voted the weakest link? Let's meet the team.
I'm Derry. I'm a 53-year-old voluntary worker from Ripley in Surrey.
My name's Sashi, I'm 41, I'm a scientific officer and I come from Birmingham.
My name's Eddie, I'm 39 and I'm an Elvis impersonator from York.
I'm Nick, I'm 23, I come from Cheltenham and I'm a full-time mum.
I'm Peter, I'm 59, I'm a driving instructor from Hale in Cheshire.
I'm Tony, I'm 30 years old, a computer programmer from North London.
I'm Karen from Rochester in Kent. I'm 36 and I work as a PR manager.
I'm John, I'm 27 and I work and live in Glasgow and I'm a business analyst.
I'm Caroline, I'm 45 and I'm a retired finance manager from Spalding.
Now, the rules. In each round, the aim is to answer enough questions correctly to reach your £1,000 target within the time limit. The fastest way is to create a chain of 9 correct answers. Get your question wrong and you break the chain and lose all the money in that chain. But if you say bank before the question is asked, the money is safe. However, you start a new chain from scratch. Remember, at the end of the round, only money that has been banked can be taken forward. You get 3 minutes in round 1. We'll start with the person whose name is first alphabetically. That's you, Caroline. Let's play the weakest link. The first question is for £20. Start the clock. Caroline, with which sport are the names Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn associated?
Boxing.
Correct. Derry, who played Rhett Butler in the film Gone with the Wind?
Pass.
Clark Gable. Sashi, in literature, what nationality was the author Victor Hugo?
Hungarian.
French. Eddie, in medicine, the drug opium is extracted from which plant?
Poppy.
Correct. Nick, which boulevard, also the name of a musical, runs from downtown Los Angeles through Beverly Hills to the Pacific?
Beverly Hills.
Sunset Boulevard. Peter, in tennis, what nationality is former Wimbledon champion Pat Cash?
New Zealand.
Australian. Tony, was Leonardo da Vinci a Renaissance or Impressionist artist?
Impressionist.
Renaissance. Karen, did the D-Day landing in Normandy take place in the First or Second World War?
Second.
Correct. John, in literature, Dick Francis wrote crime novels about which sport?
Racing.
Correct. Caroline, in the British police force, which of these ranks holds seniority? Sergeant or inspector?
Inspector.
Correct. Derry, what tea is a malicious dwarf from Scandinavian folklore?
Troll.
Correct. Sashi, who was the lead singer of the rock group Queen?
Freddie Mercury.
Correct. Eddie, in food, carrots are a main source of which vitamin?
C.
A. Nick, which of these precious metals is most valuable, gold, silver or platinum?
Platinum.
Correct. Peter, on which BBC radio station would you listen to Terry Wogan in the morning?
BBC 2.
Radio
Radio
2. Correct. Tony, in darts, what would you score for hitting the bullseye?
150.
50 points. Karen, now is the winter of our discontent is the first line of which Shakespeare play?
Tale of Two Cities.
Richard III. John, in geography, which G is a former Soviet republic and a US state?
Georgia.
Correct. Caroline, what is the English equivalent of an American zip code?
Postcode.
Correct. Derry, with which musical instrument would you associate Eric Clapton?
Guitar.
Correct. Sashi, which comedian has partnered Stephen Fry in several television series bearing their names?
Hugh Laurie.
Correct. Eddie,
Bank.
what is celebrated on the first Sunday after the full moon that follows the spring equinox?
Midsummer Night.
Easter. Nick, in music, what is the name of the stick used by a conductor?
Pass.
A baton. Peter, what A is used to describe an area of land which is barren or unproductive due to lack of moisture?
Arid.
Correct. Tony, in which sporting event was Daley Thompson an Olympic gold medalist?
Decathlon.
Correct. Karen, who sang the Bond themes Diamonds Are Forever and Goldfinger?
Shirley Bassey.
Correct.
Bank.
John, in history, did France ever have a leader called Napoleon III? Time is up. The answer was yes. And you managed £400 of the £1,000 you could have won in that round. Who is already looking like a very, very weak member of the team? One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote.
Do it, you know, like to who you don't want there, you know, it's... The point is you've got to vote somebody off and I just have to be first, so... They're all horrible.
Round 2. Now you've won £400 out of the possible 1,000 you could have won in that round. 8 of you left. We are now taking 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Caroline. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Caroline, in the Bible, which M was a gift brought by the 3 wise men to Jesus?
Myrrh.
Correct. Derry, in sport, for which international side does Jonah Lomu play rugby?
Pass.
New Zealand. Sashi, who was Fred Astaire's female dance partner in the film Top Hat?
Ginger Rogers.
Correct. Eddie, in medicine, what term literally meaning after death is another name for an autopsy?
Post-mortem.
Correct. Peter, what is the capital of Sweden?
Stockholm.
Correct. Tony, in meteorology, are storms more likely in an area of high pressure or low pressure?
High pressure.
Low pressure. Karen, in children's literature, who wrote the famous 5 books?
Enid Blyton.
Correct. John, in history, King William III was also known by what other title?
William of Orange.
Correct. Caroline, the San Fernando Valley is a suburb area of which major US city?
Beverly Hills.
Los Angeles. Derry, in TV, whose travelogue programmes have included Pole to Pole and Around the World in 80 Days?
Michael Palin.
Correct. Sashi, in the human eye, what sea can cause the lens to become cloudy, leading to impaired sight?
Cataract.
Correct. Eddie, which film star was famous for declaring, "I want to be alone"?
Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo.
Greta Garbo, correct. Peter,
Bank.
in science, what is the opposite of a convex surface?
Concave.
Correct. Tony, in sport, how often are the Summer Olympics held?
Every 4 years.
Correct. Karen, which English cathedral has 3 spires known as the Ladies of the Vale, Lichfield or Lincoln?
Lincoln.
Lichfield. John, the public announcement the bands are called for 3 weeks leading up to which ceremony?
Pass.
Wedding. Caroline, the Steven Spielberg film Hook retells which classic children's tale?
Pass.
Peter Pan. Derry, in music, Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious found fame in which band?
Pass.
The Sex Pistols.
Oh, yes.
Sashi, which 2 continents does the Russian Federation span?
Europe and Asia.
Correct. Eddie, in World War II, what bombs were known colloquially as doodlebugs?
The V1 rockets.
Correct. Peter, in the animal kingdom, is a bowhead a whale or a shark?
Shark.
A whale. Tony, in the fairy tale Sleeping Beauty, how many years did the princess sleep for?
100 years.
Correct. Karen, with which of Her Majesty's forces did Prince Charles serve from 1971 to 1976?
The Army.
Royal Navy. John, in chemistry, is lime water acidic or... Time is up. I cannot complete the question, which is a pity, because in that round you won a very miserable £100 out of a possible £1,000. Who needs to be ditched without delay? One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote on.
Sit there and watch the show and say, well, everybody knows who the Sex Pistols leader was, but when you're actually there and when you're answering only your own questions, it makes a difference, and well, I realise that now. I think the person that should go out in the next round is possibly Derry. For a lady of her years, she should know some of the questions that we've come up against, and so perhaps she's nervous and it doesn't show.
Round 3, and you have a total of £500 in the bank. You could have won 2,000 by now. You are down to 7 players. We are taking another 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Eddie. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Eddie, in clothing, is the fabric moleskin a type of cotton or polyester?
Cotton.
Correct. Peter, when Sophie Rhys-Jones married Prince Edward, she became the Countess of where?
Don't know.
Wessex. Karen, which boxer played himself in the film The Greatest?
Rocky Marciano.
Muhammad Ali. John, if you were at Charles de Gaulle Airport, in what city would you be?
Paris.
Correct. Caroline, who was the main host of the TV show That's Life?
Esther Ransom.
Correct.
Bang.
Derry, which British opera singer wrote the book Notes from a Small Soprano?
Pass.
Leslie Garrett. Sashi, what does the Roman numeral L signify?
50.
Correct, Eddie. What is the largest country by area in Western Europe?
Russia.
France. Peter, in nature, are boa snakes venomous or non-venomous?
Which snakes?
Boa snakes.
Non-venomous.
Correct. Karen, the thistle is the national emblem of which British country?
Scotland.
Correct. John, in medicine, which metallic element is drunk by a patient before an X-ray to show the shape of the gut?
Potassium.
Barium. Caroline, 1991 Treaty on European Union is commonly known by the name of which Dutch city where it was signed?
Maastricht.
Correct. Derry, which US president from the 1970s was formerly a peanut farmer?
Pass.
Jimmy Carter. Sashu, which phonetic form of the French for help me is an internationally recognised distress signal?
SOS.
Mayday. Eddie, in the book The War of the Worlds, aliens from which planet invade Earth?
Mars.
Correct. Peter, is morning primrose or evening primrose oil commonly used in medicine?
Evening.
Correct. Karen, what common name is given to the fungal disease responsible for the death of elm trees all over the world?
Dutch elm disease.
Correct. John,
Bank.
in food, web and iceberg are varieties of what?
Lettuce.
Correct. Caroline, complete the name of the 1980s pop band Frankie Goes to?
Hollywood.
Correct. Derry, what F is the name of the long, narrow coastal inlets of Norway?
Fjords.
Correct. Sashi, was Greek dramatist Euripides famous for his works of comedy or tragedy?
Tragedy.
Correct. Eddie,
Bang.
who starred as Eliza Doolittle in the 1964 film My Fair Lady?
Audrey Hepburn.
Correct. Peter, in science, what... The time is up. You banked only £350. One of you is about to leave with nothing, deservedly. It's time to...
Quicker than me. It's difficult to say who's going to be the next person to be voted off. I think people are beginning to lose their confidence a bit, and I think Peter's lost his confidence.
Round 4, and you've won £850. Not very impressive, because there's been potential prize money so far of £3,000. 6 of you left. We're taking another 10 seconds off the clock. You now have only 2.5 minutes. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Caroline. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Caroline, what G is a garden house with extensive views?
Gazebo.
Correct. Sashi, which river connects the cities of Budapest, Vienna and Prague?
Pass.
The River Danube. Eddie, who wrote the West End musical Whistle Down the Wind?
Lloyd Webber.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, correct. Peter, what phenomenon is most commonly associated with the Roswell Air Base in the United States?
Alien landings.
Correct. Karen, in mythology, which band of heroes went with Jason in search of the Golden Fleece?
The Argonauts.
Correct. John,
Bank.
in literature, which of the Brontes wrote Wuthering Heights?
Emily.
Correct. Caroline, what did Laszlo and George Biro invent in 1938?
The ballpoint pen.
Correct. Sashi, who was the last Labour Prime Minister before Tony Blair?
Wilson. Harold Wilson.
James Callaghan. Eddie, in which Italian dish is arborio rice most commonly used?
Lasagna.
Risotto. Peter, which astral body do bees use to navigate, the sun, the moon or the stars?
The sun.
Correct. Karen, in sport, which Scotsman won the first of his 7 Embassy World Professional Snooker Championships in 1990?
Oh, young guy with spots. Oh, pass.
Stephen Hendry. John, In medicine, what B is the removal of a living tissue sample from the body for diagnostic examination?
Biopsy.
Correct. Caroline. On what date does Halloween take place in Britain?
October the 31st.
Correct. Sashi. Which French word meaning rebirth is used to refer to a period in European history and culture?
Renaissance.
Correct. Eddie.
Bank.
Which TV series was set in a women's Japanese prisoner of war camp?
Tenko.
Correct. Peter. Who wrote the operas The Marriage of Figaro and The Magic Flute?
Mozart.
Correct. Karen. From which country does the breed of dog, the Dachshund, originate?
Germany.
Correct. John.
Bank.
Who has been British television's voice of motor racing for the last 30
Murray
years?
Walker.
Correct. Caroline. Which children's book tells the story of a toad who is friends with a mole, a rat and a badger?
Toad of Toad Hall.
Wind in the Willows. Sashi. What name is given to someone who neither eats nor uses any animal products?
Vegan.
Correct. Eddie. In pop music. The time is up, and in that round you banked only £300 out of a possible 1,000. Who, frankly, doesn't deserve to go any further? It's time to vote off.
In fairness, I mean, I expected to be kicked out. I think the next round, the person who'll probably go next is Karen. I think she's been very lucky to survive this far.
Round 5, and your total is £1,150 so far. If you'd hit your target, it would be £4,000. 5 of you left, another 10 seconds coming off the time. We start with the strongest link from the last round. That's John. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. John, in pop music, who was the lead guitarist in the Beatles?
Paul McCartney.
George Harrison. Caroline, in maths, what is 9 times 6?
54.
Correct. Eddie, what name is given to the high pointed hat worn by archbishops and bishops?
Mitre.
Correct. Peter, in what county are the White Cliffs of Dover?
Kent.
Correct. Karen.
Bank.
If you were in a French boulangerie, what would you be buying, bread or meat?
Bread.
Correct. John, in the film of the same name, who played Scottish nanny Mrs. Doubtfire?
Robin Williams.
Correct. Caroline, in history, who was the last Tudor monarch?
Elizabeth I.
Correct. Eddie,
Bank.
the Latin word canis refers to what species of animal?
Dog.
Correct. Peter, which Rolling Stone caused controversy by marrying 19-year-old Mandy Smith in 1989?
Charlie Watt.
Bill Wyman. Karen, in sport, which American woman won a record 20 Wimbledon titles between 1961 and 1979?
Oh, pass.
Billie Jean King. John, what is the capital of the Channel Island, Jersey?
Pass.
St Helier. Caroline, in photography, what moving part of the camera controls the amount of time light has to affect the film?
The lens.
Shutter. Eddie, Callista Flockhart plays which American TV lawyer?
Ally McBeal.
Correct. Peter, which classic rock and roll song was first heard as the theme music for the film Blackboard Jungle?
No.
Rock Around the Clock. Karen, in 1846, ether was used in an operating theatre for the first time as what?
An anaesthetic.
Correct. John, by what name is the International Criminal Police Organisation better known?
Pass.
Interpol. Caroline, with which field of the arts would you associate the names Martin Scorsese and Stanley Kubrick?
Film directors.
Correct. Eddie, which
Bank.
Irish author's work includes Ulysses and Dubliners?
James Joyce.
Correct. Peter, what did Adolf Sachs invent in the 1840s? The time is up. The correct answer was saxophone. And in that round, you won £220. Dear, dear, who is not delivering? One of you, quite rightly, is about to leave with nothing. It's time.
Most money for the team. John is statistically the weakest link. Will he survive the vote?
Pens down, voting over. Please reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Karen.
Karen.
John.
Peter.
John.
We have a tie again. John and Karen, 2 votes each. Peter, why Karen?
I just felt the others were that little bit stronger.
Caroline, why John?
I felt he wasted a lot of time this round, and maybe the pressure's getting to him now.
Oh, right, OK. Well, as you know, when the vote is tied, the strongest link has the casting vote. Eddie, you can change your mind if you want to, even though Karen is underlined twice. Would you now rather get rid of Karen or John?
Well, in the previous round, I give Karen the benefit of the doubt. But in this case now, I think she's let us down a couple too many times. So, unfortunately, Karen, bye.
Weakest link in every round, so I think there was some personality clash there. I think possibly John may be the next to go. He was certainly my choice when I was ousted because he hesitated quite a lot.
Round 6, you could have won £5,000 by now. In fact, there is £1,370 in the bank. 4 of you left. We are cutting another 10 seconds from the time. We start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Eddie. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Eddie, in nature, what type of fish is famous for leaping upstream?
Salmon.
Correct. Peter, the monument in the City of London commemorates which event?
First World War.
Great Fire of London. John, which British singer won the Eurovision Song Contest in 1969 with the song Boom Bang a Bang?
Pass.
Lulu. Caroline, in medicine, what C is a fine tube inserted into the body to introduce or remove fluids?
Catheter.
Correct. Eddie, what did the Gregorian calendar replace in the 16th century?
The Julian calendar.
Correct. Peter, who did the actor Laurence Olivier marry in 1940?
Vivian Leigh.
Correct. John, in history, which animal did the Spanish first introduce to the Aztecs in 1519?
Dogs.
Horses. Caroline, who led the rebel forces which overthrew the regime of Fulgencio Baptista in Cuba?
Che Guevara.
Castro. Eddie, in a standard Trivial Pursuit game, what colour represents a sport and leisure question?
Green.
Orange. Peter, which Californian city has a zoo containing the world's largest collection of mammals, birds and reptiles?
Los Angeles.
San Diego. John, 4,840 square yards is equal to which traditional English measure of land?
Hectare.
An acre. Caroline, which form of Christianity is the main religion of Brazil?
Catholicism.
Correct. Eddie, Mary, the widow of King George V, died in which decade?
The 1940s.
50s. Peter, which TV and film star was twice married to Natalie Wood?
Robert Wagner.
Correct. John, which present-day country would a car with a CZ sticker be from?
Czechoslovakia.
Czech Republic. I cannot accept Czechoslovakia. Caroline, in politics, who sits on the woolsack in the House of Lords?
The Speaker. The Speaker.
Lord Chancellor. Eddie, which English football club's ground lies on Sir Matt Busby Way?
Manchester.
I can't accept your answer. The correct full answer was Manchester United. And in that round, team, you banked precisely nothing. Someone, frankly, has overstayed their welcome. It's time to vote off.
And I'm disappointed. I think John will be voted out next time. I think in most of the rounds, Caroline and Eddie have been much stronger than he.
Round 7, and you still have £1,370 out of the 6,000 you could have won. 3 of you left, another 10 seconds coming off the clock. You've voted off the strongest link, so we'll start with the second strongest link. That's Eddie. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Eddie, what specific kind of remedies were developed by Dr. Bach?
Herbal.
Flower remedies. John, in astrology, the goat is the symbol for which sign of the zodiac?
Zodiac.
Capricorn. Caroline, in the Edward Lear poem, which 2 animals went to sea in a beautiful pea green boat?
The owl and the pussycat.
Correct. Eddie, In nature, what is another name for the Colorado beetle taken from the name of the vegetable crop it destroys?
The potato beetle, yeah.
Correct. John, in BBC TV series, who is DL's partner?
Pasco.
Correct. Caroline, what is the name of the chapel in the Vatican whose ceiling was painted by Michelangelo?
The Sistine.
Correct. Eddie?
Bank.
The city of Uppsala is in which Scandinavian country?
Finland.
Sweden. John, which sport is featured in the TV game show Big Break?
Snooker.
Correct. Caroline, who was president of North Vietnam from 1945 until his death in 1969?
Ho Chi Minh.
Correct. Eddie, in maths, what is the square root of 400?
20.
Correct. John,
Bank.
in history, who was stabbed to death on the 15th of March, 44 BC?
Julius Caesar.
Correct. Caroline, in which Mediterranean country could you cruise on a traditional wooden yacht called a goulette?
Turkey.
Correct. Eddie,
Bank.
what type of animal is a warbler?
Bird.
Correct. John, in which US city is the Liberty Bell?
Philadelphia.
Correct. Caroline, American athlete Mike Powell is the world record holder in which athletics event?
500 metres.
The long jump. Eddie, in literature, who wrote the novel A Journey to the Centre of the Earth?
Jules Verne.
Correct. John, what name was given to the horseback mail service which began in America in 1860? The time is up. The answer was Pony Express. And you banked only £350 in that round, team. Now, in round 8, you get the chance to treble what you bank. That means in the next round, there's £3,000 to be won. Round 8, and there's £1,720 in the bank. You could have won, of course, by now, £7,000. Eddie and Caroline, just the two of you left, and this time you have only 90 seconds, but whatever you win in this round will be trebled and added to your total to make up your final prize money. £3,000 is at stake in this round. You've voted off the strongest link, so we'll start with the second strongest link from the last round. That's Caroline. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Caroline, which religion publishes the Watchtower magazine?
Salvation Army.
Jehovah's Witnesses. Eddie, what alcoholic drink is distilled from fermented sugarcane?
Rum.
Correct. Caroline, what name is given to the style of art seen in the work of Andy Warhol?
Art Nouveau.
Pop art. Eddie, which small blue creatures had their second pop chart success in 1978 with Dippity Day?
The Smurfs.
Correct. Caroline, in the film The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, what was the profession of the title character?
Teacher.
Correct. Eddie, which island in New York Bay used to be a centre of immigration and naturalisation?
Staten Island.
Ellis Island. Caroline, which handheld percussion instrument takes its name from the Spanish word for chestnut?
Maracas.
Castanets. Eddie, at 2,906 feet, Peñafan is the highest peak in which national park?
Kenya.
The Brecon Beacons. Caroline, in the world of music, what do the initials ENO stand for?
Pass.
English National Opera. Eddie, the best-selling crime author Ruth Rendell also writes under what name?
P.D. James.
Barbara Vine. Caroline, from which Asian country does the goldfish originate?
China.
Correct. Eddie, who has led Libya since overthrowing King Idris in 1969?
Gaddafi. Gaddafi.
Correct.
Bank.
Caroline, what
Bank.
famous landmark was built in Paris between 1887?
Eiffel Tower.
Correct, but you are out of time. And between you in that round, you won just £50. Never mind, we'll treble that and add it to the winnings from the previous rounds. That means prize money today of £1,870. But only one of you can take that money away. You will now play against each other, head to head. I'll ask alternate questions. Best of 5. Whoever answers the most correctly wins. Caroline and Eddie for £1,870. Let's play the weakest link. Eddie, as the strongest link in the last round, you have the choice of who goes first.
I think I'd like to go first.
Very well. Eddie, which of the following sea creatures is not a mammal? Dolphin, seal or turtle?
Turtle.
Correct. Caroline, which classic film features the locale of Rick's Cafe?
Casablanca.
Correct. Eddie, in which book of the Bible do the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse appear?
Revelation.
That is the correct answer. Caroline, which 2 Far Eastern countries are divided along the 38th parallel?
North and South Korea.
That is the correct answer. Eddie, what was the name of comedian Benny Hill's backing troupe in his TV series?
Hill's Angels.
That is the correct answer. Caroline, in politics, which Home Secretary promised young offenders a short, sharp shock in his speech at the Tory party conference in 1979?
John Major.
William Whitelaw. Eddie, at the 1964 Olympics, Mary Rand won a gold medal for Britain in which event?
$400 meters.
The long jump. Caroline, what was the name of the satellite that first carried television signals across the Atlantic in July 1962?
Telstar.
That is the correct answer. Eddie, the sackbut was an early form of which brass musical instrument?
The saxophone.
The trombone. Caroline, if you get this question right, you have won £1,870. Which is the only film sequel ever to have won an Oscar for Best Picture?
Godfather 2.
That is the correct answer. That means, Caroline, you are today's strongest link and you go away with £1,870. Eddie, you leave with nothing. Join us again for the weakest link. Goodbye.
I'm pleased to have beaten Eddie. I can understand he might have got on some people's nerves a bit of a larger-than-life character, but at the end of the day I was just that bit better.